Good afternoon, good evening, and good day. Good morning to those of you on the West Coast. Let's do an audio check. And also, let me explain what happened today. We were all ready to go. 13:09, I hit go live, and then friggin' Facebook Meta destroyed everything as usual. Usually they are the culprit when it's not me being late. And instead of, like, sometimes they give me the opportunity to just push ahead without Facebook, which is usually my default. Instead, it's like, oh no, you can't do anything. You need to go back and reset everything. So I unchecked Facebook, hit go live again, and then had to wait for everything to spin and shout. So if you're expecting us on Facebook, sorry. Maybe next week. I'll fix it after this. If you're on X, YouTube, you're golden. Hello. Now let's check and see if you can hear me, and then we'll get started. Yes. Okay. And first in the chat is Timothy. Looking forward to updates from Kacey and friends. Thank you. And let's get started. Let's go to presentation view. Got a few stories I picked out before the show, and then a few more stories I picked out this morning. So first up, I called this one in the notes. I said, another one. Last week or the week before, I don't recall, there was an entry in the notes that never made it online for Texas complaining about, well, Texas had asked their drivers not to drive, and people were complaining about that. And the usual anti-EV FUD came out like, oh, well, they're just, what do you think the EV it doesn't have pollution? Actually, yes. No, it doesn't, depending on what you fuel it from. And uh, it's not actively polluting while you're driving because you have to charge it up ahead of time. So that means that you can charge it up the night before the climate mitigation, or even when you get home from that day. That will be after the climate mitigation is over, because I think both the Colorado one and the Texas one were don't drive your car until after 4 o'clock. So if you're driving for a 9 to 5, your EV, even if you plug it in immediately when you get home and you were fueled from West Virginia coal, which would be impossible in both Colorado and Texas, it would still be cleaner than the gas cars. And that's assuming you don't have any solar. And in both of these places, the sun would be up when you get home if you were a typical 9 to 5. So, assuming that you weren't me with a 72 amp charger and a car that could take it, then you wouldn't be overdrawing your solar production for that time of day. Unless, of course, your house was already doing that. But I just wanted to bring that up, and I need to fix the mouse reverser because Mac decided to reassert themselves. And if you don't have their stupid flat mouse that you charge on the bottom, then they think that they need to reverse your scrolling, which is asinine. Um, let's quit the scroll reverser app and start it back up. And let's try to scroll down. Let's click where we need to click. Oh, it's still reversed. You don't know me, Apple. And if I turn off the reverser, it's still Apple style. Back. Come back. Baby, come back. Okay, there it goes. It was able to reassert itself that time. All right, so now that was all I had for that article. It was just to bring up that there was another one and that they were using the same fossil FUD tactics. Next, we've got Tesla lowers the Model 3 prices in Canada. We touched on this one already on the Tesla Live show, but there was a province that was losing their Tesla qualification for the EV tax credit. So, well, actually, they weren't losing it, they lost it. And the next morning, you woke up and Tesla had fixed the price. So it was a non issue. And what are we looking at now? We're looking at a $1,000 price drop on the Model 3 rear wheel drive, the standard range. We're looking at from $50,990 to $49,990. Problem solved. And of course, now that it requalifies for the tax credit, that is $4,000 cheaper than the start of the year. There you go. Motoko and Gig are in the kitchen churning ice cream. That'll be exciting because they're going to interrupt the show with fresh chocolate ice cream. Yes. All right. Then we've got A Tesla Model 3 long range all wheel drive now qualifies for the point of sale $7,500 tax credit here in the US. It didn't previously, not quite sure why, but there it is now. So if you wanted a Model 3 and you didn't want a performance, which did qualify, now you can get a long range instead, and it will qualify. Moving on. Motor Trend says that the Fisker Ocean, they have Fisker Ocean EV owner buying advice, FAQ. I don't know why it's a black screen. Let's refresh it and see if that's back. What this is about is that Fisker has gone and filed, I don't remember if they said Chapter 11 or Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Either way, they're not entirely dead yet, but it's not looking good. Nobody was answering the phone, and nobody was at HQ. For those of you familiar with Mr. Fisker, this is not surprising how it turned out. For those of you who bought into the whole "it's a new company" thing, which is literally true, uh, I'm sorry. And for those of you that bought a Fisker, I wish you well. And so let's see what Motor Trend says in their FAQ, what you should do now if you happen to have bought a Fisker Ocean. Late on Monday, June 17th, they filed a petition for Chapter 11. There we go, it's Chapter 11. And reorganization, bankruptcy protection, and reorganization. And what does that mean for you as an owner? Are they dead? Not just yet, but it's not looking good. Will my Ocean SUV still work? Yeah, it should still run and drive. Uh, we're not aware of any reason why the Fisker Ocean should brick itself due to this filing, especially since the company is still in business. The car's ability to start and drive should not be affected by the company's financial status. And as the company is alive and the servers are running, most of the vehicle cloud connections should still work. That's pretty cool. I think the only reason that your car would stop would be if they went down out of business due to nefarious operations like hacking or um, some other sort of ransom. Doesn't mean that the car is now safe cybersecurity wise, unless they shut down and plug the connections. Like if they push you one last firmware update that makes the car an island, so it doesn't communicate with anything, that would be one way to do it. This doesn't mean all the functions will continue to work, however. Some features, such as navigation and roadside assistance, are handled by third-party companies who have contracts with Fisker, and contractors like to be paid. If those companies aren't getting paid, they might decide to cut off their services and render those functions inoperative. Fisker informed owners last month that the roadside assistance had been cut off. That one wasn't not quite so simple. It wasn't just cut off. They canceled the roadside assistance. It's gone, even if they survive this. And reports allege that it's due to non-payment. That's very likely. Either non-payment or they couldn't continue to hold up their end of the agreement. We're not aware of any critical vehicle systems that are handled by third-party companies, so the car should continue to run and drive even if some features are stop working. Let me see if I can zoom this in a little bit. Oh, that didn't go the way I wanted it to. I guess that's better. I like this screen that the camera is sitting in, but I need one with just a little more size and resolution. That's more legible. Is my warranty still valid? Ooh, probably not. Only while they're still open. Yes, while there are caveats, as long as Fisker remains in business, it's legally obligated to honor your warranty. Catch is, Fisker's laid off a large portion of the staff and closed some of its physical locations. So while your warranty is intact, getting them to honor it is going to be tough. Can my Fisker still get fixed and serviced? Yeah, they're open. If they got somebody to do it. And if they don't have anybody to do it, you can still get somebody else to do it if they are comfortable doing so. I do believe that Fisker has switched to the dealership model. So if any franchise dealer wants to continue and they don't have a clause in the contract that says if the company ceases to operate, that you are no longer able to use the tools and whatnot, then your dealer should still be able to service you. So let's see. Yes, in theory, it's going to be what it's going to be difficult. Automakers are legally required to provide parts and service for up to 10 years after a vehicle goes out of production. Um, that one, actually, I looked it up and it's not as true as it once was. There are certain components of that that are true, but not. It's not a blanket 10 years or 7 years or 12 years that they have to have parts and service for the car anymore. Somehow they weaseled their way out of that. I didn't get the full details on what maneuvers they were able to pull to make that happen, but it's not what it once was. That only applies to the automaker still in business. That's part of it. There's an additional complication with Fisker, as TechCrunch reports. One of the problems dragging the company down is a failure to create a supply chain and stockpile of spare parts. Yeah, so that's also going to be rough for them to make it happen, especially if they go out of business. The problem isn't going to be solved while the company's in bankruptcy proceedings. Of course not, because they're struggling to stay afloat at that point. So the already small part supply is likely to dwindle unless any suppliers are nice enough, I guess, to drop off some parts. It's already in transit. You can have it. Uh, but I imagine that nobody's going to go and create fresh stuff until they're sure what's going on. Okay, let's see. Will I still be able to get insurance on an Ocean EV? So before we look at insurance, I'm going to say that while I was working for a GM dealership, the last time Fisker, the other Fisker, went out of business, after all of the remaining fleet caught fire from Hurricane Sandy in New York, after they flooded, uh, we got a memo from all of our banks saying, "Hey, no Fiskers. Do not finance. We're not going to finance a Fisker. If you push a deal through with Fisker, you're going to eat it." All right, thank you. Oh, this looks good. Look at that. Homemade ice cream. Oh yeah, that's a good texture. Wow. Mm, it's good. I don't have my cloth napkin with me. Paper towel it is. Okay, so the banks told us we're on our own if we finance a Fisker. Obviously, it was more intended aimed at the Fisker dealers, but there was a chance that we could have done a used Fisker or something to that effect, and they were letting us know. Persona non grata. And I can only imagine anybody who bought one at auction for their used car fleet right before that memo came out. That was a couple grand that they just had to eat right there. So let's see what it says about insurance. This remains to be seen and will be up to the insurance companies. It's possible to insure older vehicles with low residual values and vehicles from companies that are no longer in business, but it's unlikely you'll be able to get full coverage, and you'll need full coverage if you finance. And you'll have to have already been financed uh, if the same thing isn't going around this time around. With parts and service hard to come by already, insurers aren't likely to write extensive policies on Fisker Oceans going forward. So you're probably looking at like a liability only policy. They don't want any sort of comprehensive, at least not beyond stuff like brakes and tires and wheels, that sort of thing. They're not going to want anything that has to do with collision repair. Da, 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 So you may only be able to get reduced or minimal coverage that pays for few, if any, repairs that allow you to legally drive the vehicle. Yep. It'd be like trying to get insurance on a Model T. You can get it, but it's not going to replace anything if it crashes. Sorry, it'll melt if I don't eat it. So will my Fisker still work? Sorry, app still work? Yeah, probably. The app is currently functional and will continue to work as long as they remain in business and keep the servers running. It'll actually run after they're out of business and keep the servers running, unless somebody like Apple or Google pulls them from their stores. Um, until whoever owns the servers flicks the switch, or same with their internet connection. But yeah, your Applebee, unless it has Bluetooth direct functionality, it will be useless once they're out of business, or shortly after they're out of business, I should say. Yeah, but don't count on your app after that. Once they're gone. My Fisker Ocean still receive over-the-air updates. That'll be a for now, yes, maybe, but hell no, because there won't be anybody to write the programs. Now, it doesn't mean that they won't open source everything, which would be really cool. And then you'd be fine if you could find some group who wants to make aftermarket firmwares. Probably not for a while. As with the app, layoffs and lack of resources will hamper software development and could halt it altogether while the company deals with financial problems. Will the 4G internet connection still work? Ooh, that's a good question. And that's going to be very similar to their internet connection situation. Unclear. T-Mobile is one of the top 20 unsecured creditors Fisker owes money to, and at some point it will want to be paid for handling your 4G connection, or it will cut off service. But see, if they're, depending on what the car can still do, if they go out of business, that doesn't stop T-Mobile from offering you a direct plan. Assuming the infrastructure to handle all that is still there. Again, if they offer a software update at the end that unlocks that, then you could handle it directly with any carrier who's compatible. Assuming that it has a SIM slot or the eSIM functionality can work without somebody else's servers going. Let's see. What if there's a recall? Oh, that's fun. There could still be recalls after the fact. We saw recalls on Saturns and Hummers after they went out of business, Oldsmobiles as well. But that one was interesting because for a while old GM existed and then new GM took over for old GM for recalls. I don't know what happens in a case like this. Still legally required to notify you about recalls, provide free repairs as long as the company remains in business. In practice, this will likely be a long, slow process, as the company has little money to spend on investigating problems that could necessitate a recall and to make necessary repairs. It doesn't mean the government can't do it for them. Like, hey, this is not safe. The cars have been mandatory recall. Boom, done. And then good luck getting it done because there's nobody left to handle it. The resale value. Uh, you're screwed. There's nothing good to report from in terms of Fisker's resale value. It depends on entirely what used car buyers are willing to pay, and most buyers are going to be scared off by the bankruptcy. Fisker's already struggling to sell its inventory of new vehicles despite the massive price cuts, as customers are nervous about buying them. Yeah, so if this was like Ferrari or some kind of collector car that went out of business, or it was just a really nice car, even without its internet connection, there would still be some market for this. But it's a modern car that wasn't really that great reviewed ahead of time. So your market for a used Fisker is very limited. Maybe if you could hang out to it for a few years, you get a couple bucks for somebody using it as a first car for their teenager or something. But the market is going to be very small for this. It is what it is. What happens to my Fisker stock? Oh, ouch. I had stock in a company that went bankrupt. I don't remember what happened to it. It didn't go well. I also had stock in Twitter when Elon bought it. They returned my money to me. Like, here's your change. Keep it. Elon doesn't want to share with you. Let's see. As with resale value, the stock price depends on what investors are willing to pay for the stock. With the company entering bankruptcy protection, the value is likely to be very low, as few investors will be willing to take a chance on the value rebounding in the future. And when the company emerges from bankruptcy protection, as long as the company remains in business, there's a chance the stock could be sold, and there's a chance the value could go up and reduce your losses, or even turn a profit in the best case scenario. But that's unlikely to happen at this point. Yeah, like if somebody wanted to buy Fisker, then there's a chance your stock could be okay. But also, there's if they survive, then there's a chance your stock could be okay. But you best just get ready to write it off. Hopefully, you didn't invest too heavily thinking they were the next Tesla. Almost done here. Sorry. There we go. All right, let's get back to it. All right. So what happens if they go out of business? We just talked about all of it. What happens next? They have 120 days to submit a restructuring plan to their creditors and to the bankruptcy court. According to the company's filing, it did not prepare a plan prior to filing. Ooh, that's not good. So we don't know what this proposal will be yet. The company's filing also does not show any debtor in possession financing, which indicates the company does not have a buyer lined up and has not been able to secure a loan to help it stay in business during the restructuring. My understanding is they also have some kind of deals where they're prevented from selling the company, if they have a bankruptcy. I don't know if it was a supplier deal or just something with one of their larger investors, but they were prohibited from selling the company should this happen, is my understanding. So they're not in a good place. Not at all. All right. So that was Fisker. Then there was this tweet from Aptera. Yes, I know this is the Polydrops feed, but let's just read the tweet. Aptera Solar has launched a pilot program with EV trailer manufacturer Polydrops. These custom fit panels provide 1,300 watts of energy while keeping the aerodynamic shape. Stay tuned for more details next week. So if this looks familiar, it's because Polydrops makes smaller teardrop trailers. This is their new model. It's bigger. And apparently it's more aerodynamic than their smaller ones, which is kind of cool and interesting. What does this do for the HV nomads? Nothing, because this is too small for us to stay in for extended periods of time while we travel the country. But it would be, in theory, if this did everything that our goal was, it would be something that we could do for a couple weekends or something. But that's not the plan. We've already got the trailer. We've already started our plans. We're going to continue on. Well, it's nicer than the teardrops they used to have. If you want a picture of what they normally do, their teardrops are. I think they've got it in their feed. These are like the bed on wheels, basically. Let's see. I think they got a copy of Tesla Raj on there. So here's the new one, and it's CFD analysis is now live, and they're showing that it's really nice. The P21 travel trailer that's more aerodynamic than a small teardrop trailer. And here's what they used to make: your own escape capsule. Yeah, it's Tesla Raj. This little thing, a bed on wheels with a place to sit up straight, and around back they had like a cooking apparatus, but it would not do what we needed to do of being able to remote work and then on the weekends and evenings go to show the baby the country. It's it's it's, it's different than what our needs were, but this is a unique thing for Aptera because if you remember when Tesla was new, they were a part supplier for several other manufacturers. They were making systems for Toyota and Daimler, and that's kind of what Aptera is doing here. They're diversifying a bit. Why am I sharing the Polydrops thread instead of the Aptera thread? It adds more gravitas, it's more official because they said they're doing it for these people. These people retweeted it. It must be true on some level. And yeah, so that's what it used to look like right there. A bed on wheels. Uh, Works for some people, doesn't work for what we're trying to do. All right, I'll leave this open because I want to find out more about their new model as it comes out. You guys might be interested, might not. All right, let's look at some random stories I found this morning. Uh, I don't know why this is open. It's not an article. Here we go. So the Tesla-powered Hummer H1 EV weighs half as much as the GMC Hummer EV, and it's still matching it in every spec from what I understood in the blurb. Restomod Hummer H1 EV with Tesla batteries has entered the chat. It weighs only 4,500 pounds, which is not much more than the battery pack on the Hummer EV. The H1 EV is said to have about 300 miles of range from its 75 kilowatt hour battery. That's not bad, although doesn't seem accurate when you consider that that the Model Y that has that battery would probably barely hit 300 miles on its own, and this is much larger and less aerodynamic. So we'd be looking at something like I got 300 miles out of it once during the conversion, or yeah, at 55 miles an hour on perfectly level ground with a tailwind, something like that. I wouldn't put anything into that range with that much battery in that vehicle. A Canadian company has already established EV conversion stop that has already established an EV conversion stop is building an electric Hummer that is lighter than the one General Motors is building now. It's kind of cool. So it's a pro kit. That's not so bad. I still don't put any stock in 300 miles real world driving in this vehicle. North American Electric Vehicles, as the name of the company, aims to take former military Humvees that once sold as the civilian Hummer H1 and is equipping them with secondhand Tesla powertrains. They call it the Cyber Hummer. You can't just call it Cyber. I mean, they did, but it's not the same thing. Timothy says, 010 says, hi, hello, good to see you. Indeed. So 0-60 time of 2.5 seconds. That, I believe, is quite nice. When you take out like everything and when you consider how much like diesel stuff was in here, I don't know if they did like Zach straight rig everything and kept the portal axles and that sort of thing, or if they kind of stripped it all out and went for a more lightweight suspension and powertrain and everything. The company has plans to provide both NACS and CCS charging capability. And that can be done if you plan ahead for it, which is a luxury that the other EV makers did not have. One of the things we talked about either here or on the Tesla Life show was that what will your AC charger do when it sees 300 volts DC come into its ports? Will it fry, or will it handle it gracefully and then tell the system to switch it over, or just pass it straight through to the battery? Most of the savings come from removal of the stock cast iron suspension components and geared hubs. Well, that was my question about the portal axles, as well as the transfer case, transmission, fuel systems, and exhaust systems, none of which are required in this EV conversion. Okay, so theirs will get more range on any type of batteries than Zach's will. But it also won't have the same sort of off-road prowess as in theory that Zach's could do. It uses secondhand EV components. While the Humvees are sourced from surplus auctions, they said that the use of secondhand vehicles and components is a sustainable choice. Plus, I don't think you can get new H1s anymore. Curb weight of less than 6,000 pounds, can be registered as Class 1 vehicles with on-road title. But because they are less than 6,000 pounds, you don't get your farm tax credit either. The Section 179 accelerated depreciation Hummer tax credit because it's no longer 6,000 pounds. That's not a bad starting price either for what you're looking at. $139,900. The Baja and Commander versions at $98,000 and $119,000 respectively. Builds take 6 months after an order is placed, and they aim to build 328 units annually. Solid. Not for me, but it might be for you. Honda asks, could leased batteries lead to affordable EVs? The answer, yes, it could. The question is, will it succeed? Not in the US. We've tried leased batteries here a couple times, and it doesn't really work out all that well. Better Place tried it, and they went out of business. People like to know that should the company go out of business or have some weirdness going on, that their vehicle in the driveway is still viable. And depending on how the contract is written, you don't have that that warm fuzzy left to you, that somebody's not going to come in, buy all your batteries, and then leave you with a husk in your driveway. It's unlikely, but humans aren't exactly rational. Have that chance out there, and then people won't be comfortable. The flip side of that is a company like Honda should be around for a little while, and then if you could upgrade or at least reset your battery situation by doing a swap, that would be fun. Again, it depends on how the contract is written. But the other part of it is that people want to be able to stop payments on a car after a while if they keep it into old age. And with the leased battery, you won't be able to stop making payments most likely. Honda Mitsubishi plan to partner on battery lease business. Japan only experiment for now. It might work better there because their cars don't typically get old like they do here, just because of the way they've structured everything. But I think the way they do that is with pollution controls. With it being an EV, that scheme might be gone. I'll have to look into it at some point. Somebody remind me. Look into how how Japan is able to force such a fresh fleet. Yeah, see, VinFast tried this model and gave up here in the States. Moving on. That was all I wanted to do, was just touch on that. GOP senators go after inflated EV efficiency and fleet standards. I don't know what this is. I just saw the title. It's like, I should look at this. And then I never read it before the show started. So let's see. Ongoing effort to push back against stricter emissions, lead to more EV sales. Republicans drafted a bill calling for regulators to change the way EV efficiency is calculated. Slippery slope. Recalculating electric vehicle efficiency for accuracy and legitimacy, the Reveal Act. I think they spent more time making the name than actually thinking about this. Because EVs have a defined test cycle, just like the gas and diesels. And the EPA has been tweaking it for a while now just to make sure that they come out somewhat close to reality. The goal is not necessarily to get you reality and accuracy as much as it is to get you the ability to compare apples to apples. Excuse me. So you could say, all right, let's look at the F-150 Lightning, the Rivian R1T, and the Cybertruck, and see, and the Sierra, whatever. Which one do I want to get based on fuel economy? And you can do that. Also, if you were considering the Lightning versus the gas version, you can do that with the MPGE, the miles per gallon equivalent. If they do this, they might hurt themselves because this will then have to apply to fossil cars as well, and they also don't get exactly what the sticker says because people don't drive the way that the test is operated. Monkey paw. All right, that's enough of them and their shenanigans. Uh, Speaking of them and their shenanigans, BYD nears a huge Mexico EV plant with 50,000 sales in sight this year. So when they started the whole anti-Chinese EV things here in the States and in Europe, uh, I was thinking that China would just skirt around it. It's not hard. And even though there may be some controls like, hey, look at who owns the company, they can get around that as well. Uh, we already saw China pushing a lot of their stuff towards Mexico. And the only difference they would have to do is just obfuscate the paperwork enough, depending on how we've structured the law. I didn't read it because I didn't care. But depending on how we've structured the law, they could just be puppet masters, hide the money, have a Mexican company building EVs for the American companies or for themselves, and they could even do them directly on the Chinese plans. Like you could have a BYD Seal built by Fire Chicken Motors, and I hope that's not a real company, but you could have a whole brand new company building the exact duplicate of a Chinese car in Mexico and then shipping them to the States because, according to NAFTA or USMCA or whatever Trump renamed NAFTA to, with that, Mexico is part of that. So as long as we can't trace it back to a Chinese company, they're in the clear. And this was never going to work as well as they thought it would. And when you look at the reviews of like BYD Seal at 14 grand, uh, or 12 grand, whatever, they were saying that it wasn't a punishment mobile. It felt fine, kind of like the really old Kias of the day, where they are focused on the stuff that you can touch and feel and see and smell, and not really putting much effort into the other stuff like the engine and suspension and stuff that you can't see and feel. You can feel the suspension, I know, but if the ride quality is of what their customers are expecting, they could use a lesser technology than what the competition is doing. Is what I'm getting at there. So this is kind of like that same. It's history rhyming, not say repeating, but rhyming. And EVs make that easier to do, and so the consumer gets what they want, a cheap, affordable EV. Our manufacturers don't get what they want, which is just protectionism and uh, another monkey paw situation. Careful what you wish for. I this will be interesting to watch it play out, but it's not going to go the way they thought that it was going to go. Uh, that's all I got on that. But right now, it's actual BYD as themselves in Mexico with their suppliers. All right, so the BMW 1 Series is going electric as an affordable EV for younger buyers. The back end of that just looked goofy to me, and so then I was like, let's look at it, and then we ran out of time. So see how much they're talking about here. BMW's 1 and 2 Series will spawn the i1 and i2 EVs, which are already in development. That's pretty cool. They don't really have a choice, though. As I've said with Norway, next year being all EV. And not just Norway. Norway's just after Ethiopia. They're just the leading the way as far as what's going to happen with this stuff. Let's see. Lower profitability, fill a different purpose. Do we have a price? That's what I was getting at. It doesn't look bad, but it's a concept car, and aside from the Cybertruck, Elon had a point about concept cars. And what I mean by that is how everybody but Tesla and Honda's concepts were utter lies. Uh, but even the Cybertruck concept was not better than what they showed us as the final product. It was close. It was like what Honda does: bigger wheels, bigger mirrors, but basically what you get. Except that Honda was actually closer this time around. These don't look bad. I don't know why they got to continue with the kidney bean growing. Looks like eagle wings or butterfly wings right here. I don't know. Anyway, let's continue on. Ah, yes, this one intrigued me. So not only is Ford kind of coming up on Tesla on everything that they're doing, they're continuing on with the optimistic prognostications of when we'll be able to have the ability to close our eyes and take a nap and go from coast to coast. Uh, Jim Farley is saying that Ford is getting close to level 3 autonomous driving that enables hands and eyes off. Uh, unless they're talking about the same garbage that Mercedes and Honda are talking about, where it's practically useless under almost every real application, then I'm not putting any stock in this or holding my breath the same way that Elon tells us full self driving is coming yet again for another year in a row. Um, yes, it's going to happen eventually, but uh, Elon has cried wolf so many times with that I can't count on his timelines. I mean, I can get excited when he gets excited, but I'm not gonna, go out and invest in a fleet of Model Threes to be my robo taxi fleet or anything like that. Um, Same thing with Jim here. They've got Blue Cruise, and it does all right, but have they prepared themselves for all the corner cases? I don't think so. Uh, but like I said, the level three, if they're going to do the same thing that Mercedes and Honda did, then I can totally see them doing that. That's not quite the same thing. I appreciate Ford's honesty here. They expect it by 2026, but the cost must come down for practical. Sounds reasonable considering advancements in processing power. Processing power, yes, but where are they training it at? What data are they feeding it? There aren't that many Fords on the road with the right systems to teach the system. And if you're using a commercial system, why is nobody else touting this as well? Because if you're buying it from somebody else, unless you win an exclusive, then everybody else will also have access to the same supplier. Not holding my breath. Excited, but not holding my breath. This one was a childish giggle, but it was there and I did it. Ratan's newest electric bike has a name that you can't say in polite company. Uh, Ratan, a longtime player, is now seeing increased penetration in an entry-level e-bike in the market. Call for 2024 season, and believe it or not, little guy's getting the little guy that's getting the most attention. That's right. It's time to check out the company's latest small form factor 20-inch folding e-bike. Say hello to Ratan's new, let's call it the Pi Nus. And for that one, I was just looking at unfortunate ability to translate your name across cultures. Uh, Famous examples: Chevy Nova, not exactly true for the Nova, but there have been other products where the name did mean something offensive or not what they wanted in another market where they didn't do proper market research and translation. This is close. This will not this will not do well on the name. For example, sure is a bit of a unique name. The Chinese operating the Chinese e-bike companies operating in the U.S. are known for occasionally choosing quirky monkeys. For example, I'm not sure even if that's how you pronounce it, but maybe it's a long I. But then it just sounds like Southern Belle. I do believe it's time for my afternoon ride. I do declare. Oh, do better. Mississippi's first utility scale wind farm is officially online. Good stuff, especially in the places that tend to say climate change isn't happening. We can burn oil forever. Might lift them up a little bit more out of poverty. Uh, how big is this thing? 184.5 megawatts. Nice. It's going to be run by AES Corporation, that power utility, and Amazon will purchase power from the Delta Wind for its regional data centers and logistics hubs. So they already have a customer. It's the equivalent power for 80,000 households. This time doesn't say US households or UK households, or they usually tie it to the local households when they try and convert how many houses these things can do. They didn't say that specifically here. The U.S. Southeast has been slow to adopt onshore wind due to political opposition and lower wind speeds at lower altitudes. Yeah, and it's just a fawning over oil. AES told Kerry Media in an exclusive that the Delta Wind's 41 Vestas onshore turbines are the tallest in the U.S., with blades reaching 692 feet in the air at the highest point. While the wind turbines are only 4.5 megawatts, the larger rotor allows them to generate power even in low winds. That's pretty cool. All right, Cruise has been ordered to pay the max penalty for a delayed accident report. And this one, from the article, we basically had the number $112,500. That's their settlement for lying, basically lying. This comment did a better job than the article did for me. Let's see where to go. Jess says, honestly, this article is too kind. Cruise leaves out the part on the report and the video where it's dragged someone down the road before stopping on them. They pretended the car immediately stopped, just so happened to stop on the person. Um, the person was hit by another car, not by the cruise. Uh, the person was hit by another car, thrown in the air and onto the hood, and rolled off in front of the car. The crazy thing is that the car did the best it could with this unique situation. I don't fault Cruise for what the car did, but lying and omitting critical information is horrible and shows they can't be trusted. Cruise had their ability for their cars to drive without a driver revoked, although this fine is more of a joke than anything. This ignores the other incident where they blocked emergency vehicles for 20 minutes, who were unable to then get somebody to the hospital, and the result is the person died shortly after getting there. Those 20 minutes might have saved their life. I know the media likes to ignore this case, as does the government, but it should not be, or it should never be forgotten. Cruz's excuse was they hadn't tried to move yet, so we didn't block them for very long, except that they were blocked, so they couldn't try to move. The emergency personnel tried to take over and drive the Cruz vehicles away, but they wouldn't move. Cruz lied twice and killed one person. Wasn't it after the human operator took over that the person was dragging the car underneath? That's a good question. Doesn't matter. And no, there was no human operator in the car. It was empty. It does support LiDARs would help. I don't want to look at the profile. I wanted to thumbs up the comment. There we go. So this one is all the people trying to force these new companies into using the franchise dealer model. Hackers demand massive ransom as cyber attack plagues auto dealerships. So as much as 50% of U.S. and Canadian auto dealers are currently operating in reduced functionality. Their dealer management service or system, their software that they use to operate their dealership is broken. They can sell cars on paper and they can promise to email you when you know more. But what's really hurting them right now is the finances and parts departments are, cooked. So over 15,000 dealerships are unable to make sales the past few days, and they claim to be behind the outage. And those who claim to be behind the outage are demanding tens of millions of dollars of ransom. The company that runs the DMSs is talking about paying it. Now, I don't know them, this particular group's software name, but we've used a couple of DMSs at the stores that I worked at. Some were local, but later on, most of them were web-based, which was always fun. You know what? I'm going to look them up. I wonder if they run several of them or just one. All right, so the car dealership guys, emergency press release, over 50% of dealers shut down a cyber attack. Somebody explain how they're getting around it. Probably another comment situation. Could be an inside job. Okay, workers at the dealership group have resorted to using paper and pencil for writing service tickets, as well as adding plans to follow up with customers via email. And parts is probably the hardest hit, besides actual accounting office, said Edwards. In sales, we were able to transact customers, but are unable to stock in trades and auction purchases. All right, so now let's see. Let's do a search. CDK Global. TMS software. I'm wondering if I've used theirs, but maybe they're not the same company that I worked with. Drive. That logo looks familiar. But I was looking for the name of the program, and if it's Drive, then we escape them at my stores. It might be called CDK Drive, and if that's the case, we missed these folks by a little bit, thankfully. Yep, CDK drive. Oh well. Elon Musk says that the supercomputing center is aiming for 130 megawatts of power this year. Sounds like a good use for a couple of Tesla megapacks because that's a lot of power. And it's a lot of cooling as well. They were talking about 130 megawatts of power and cooling this year before increasing to 500 megawatts over the next 18 months, with about 50% being Dojo and 50% being NVIDIA or otherwise. We're nothing without our fans. Elon's building a giant GPU cooler in Texas. So I thought my GPU cooler was large. My computer that's got one is the size of a desk. This is the size of several buses. Nice. But of course, they're also dealing with way more than one GPU. All right, moving on. All right, so we talked about Fisker's bankruptcy. Close that. Tesla's ready to roll out a massive Cybertruck charging improvements. And Joey assembled this from a couple tweets. Jon Stewart was complaining, not the TV Jon Stewart, was complaining about any change to the charging curve. It seems like a significant difference between our 22 Model X and the Cybertruck. We just picked it up this week and are left straight away for a cross-country trip. Absolutely loving the truck. Put 1,100 miles on it in 24 hours of pickup. Wes says coming soon via OTA, and he quotes Drew Baglino, who is, I believe, no longer with the company. Cybertruck charging curve improvements are coming OTA later this quarter to unlock up to 154 miles recovered in 15 minutes. And then the article says they're not sure if that's Cyber Beast or dual motor, but that doesn't make much of a difference, really. They use the same battery. Unless their confusion was at the miles quotation. And in that case, it's not that big of a difference between the two. We're talking like 10, 20 miles, right? A bug within Cybertruck will lock the stall into 100 amp max when you came in at low state of charge. And he points out that our friend Kyle Connor did it regularly because he's very good at coming in to a stall at 0%. So if you have a Cybertruck or getting one soon, you'll soon charge better. Then a bunch of comments and complaints about it. If you have a non-Intel Tesla, you are going to lose your Atari games on your next update. But they have added a content filter to title. So if you don't want your kids hearing bad words, or if you don't like hearing bad words, you can check the explicit content box or uncheck it, as the case may be, and you don't have to hear that nasty language. They're not taking the games away from those of us with legacy cars, or those of you new members of the Legacy Club, the Intel Model 3s and Ys, and I think that's just the Intel Model 3s and Ys. You also will retain your Atari games for now. Ford announces the F-150 Lightning super truck for Pikes Peak, and people were talking about how it had a 50 kilowatt hour battery, but that's fine because it's a purpose-built race car. What more do you need? It doesn't need to cross country. If it does, it'll be on the back of a trailer or on an airplane. Last year, Ford deployed its all-electric supervan for the Pikes Peak International Hill Climb. It completed the climb in 8 minutes, 47.682 seconds. That's pretty cool. The F-150 Lightning Super Truck is designed to beat that record. That's pretty cool. Our newest EV performance demonstrator is the F-150 Lightning Super Truck. Excited to have this driver, Romain Dumas, behind the wheel again to take on Pikes Peak. More info and videos here. Looks pretty cool. And this article was, it didn't have much to it. Ferrari names its price for its first EV and hints at a second one on its way. I scanned up and down and did not see a price mentioned on this thing. Let me type in $. Now it moved closer to launching its first EV, and Ferrari has reportedly landed at a price of at least 500,000 euros or $535,000. Yeah, that's not what you promised. That's a range. It's an about, and that's we have no details on this thing, and then we have an approximate price range. So I was left wanting in this article. Not that I was gonna be able to snatch a Ferrari EV, but it would have been nice given the title. Apparently, they also hint at another one being on the way. This one was fun. Dubai's police Tesla Cybertruck cruiser is on display to the public this week. There it is. Look quite sharp. I don't know what happened here. They probably bought one of the auctioned units because it's not for sale outside of U.S. yet, not even in Canada. And you have to kind of do some conversion on the electric to get it to work as well. They use 50 hertz instead of 60. And they use they don't use NACs. They use CCS2. So there it is in their announcement. Come look at our truck. Let's go to the comments. I'm curious what people thought about this because it's not exactly practical. I mean, the vehicle itself is, but this unit is not because it's configured for North America. Wonder how much they paid for it. Yeah, that's one concern. I wonder how they charge it. Different? Yes. This guy thinks they're ugly. Unique shape of the truck allowed us to make a real eye-catching wrap to promote our business, up 23% since they hit the street. Have essentially paid for themselves already. Nice. There is no public in an auction house. Sees the chance to explore commemorative photos with the luxury security patrol Tesla Cybertruck for the ice rink mall. Bizarre, like Tim Cook walking around with an Android phone. Not exactly. They're trying to get away from their oil. Remove the cover, and Cybertruck is no more a police car. What? What about the Lucid police vehicles? Or is that the House of Saud? That's a good question. I think that is Saudi Arabia, yeah. I thought I read the only country where the Cybertruck was street legal was the US. Well, I guess if you're the police in Dubai, it doesn't matter. Who's going to write you the ticket? A company in Dubai is already renting the Cybertruck. Interesting. B saw one 3 days ago in Abu Dhabi. So clearly street legal over there. I don't know that you can say that definitively. Not approved for use in China for whatever reason, because it's hooked up for the U.S. data center, for instance. Nowhere in the EU. Well, EU is different. I don't think the Arab nations have that restriction. I guess not. Clearly, you can't trust what random people write. Actually, I now recall it was a statement by Musk at the last shareholder meeting. Fully recognize that many people will dismiss whatever he says out of hand, but I can't discern any motive for falsehood there. True. Sounds kind of like a tourist thing, so no doubt some kind of waiver. Again, maybe. I think he suggested Cybertruck might not meet EU regs. Yeah, Musk did say that. He didn't suggest every country in the world. He did not, but he did suggest they need to make different versions. All right, so nobody addressed charging. It's not impossible. It's just would the police department actually want to take the effort to deal with that? Maybe the upfitter handled it for them. Some Tesla owners report malfunctioning dog mode in the new update. If you use dog mode, be careful. We've heard news stories from people fretting about the door handles. That is a non-issue, but the fact that the kid was locked in the car, if the grandmother left the car and wasn't just getting out of her door and then going to get the kid, and the car died, then that's a much bigger situation because an 18-month-old shouldn't be left in the car. But if you were just getting out of your chair and then to unlatch the child, then that is concerning that the car could be dead in the time it took you to unbuckle and then open and close the door. But basically, all the articles were written about how hard it is to get out of the car. It's not hard to get out of the car. I've got a video on it. Let me find it. Studio. do let's do manual release. Escape. Door. I got a video on it, but those searches aren't working. I tried escape. Override. Might find it and post it later, but I've got a video on how to get out of all of the Teslas except the Cybertruck if they lose power. So yeah, be careful using dog mode until we hear otherwise. And let's go back to the right view with you guys now. Just make sure that nothing happened to the stream. No, I don't want to start a new stream. I want to, yes, view the existing stream. It says it's good quality, so that's good. So Neo has unveiled the battery swap station 4.0. It's faster, bigger, and this part confused me. They said automatic, and it's got hella compute power. It's got something like 1,000 tops. Yeah, 1,000 trillion operations per second. They've got 6 ultra-wide field of view LiDAR, 4 Orion X chips, and the automotive version. They're not the data center version. It's significantly more capable than previous versions, can accommodate 23 battery packs and storage, and swap process is quicker at just 144 seconds, and it can handle up to 480 swaps per day. None of that makes this any better economically outside of ultra-dense urban areas where home charging and work charging is not available. You still have the problem of now you're investing in 23 extra battery packs per site, and you're going to need more than 2 sites to handle any sort of volume because at 144 seconds, we're still talking several minutes. 144 divided by 60. We're still looking at 2.4 minutes per car. So if you don't have like 2 to 5 of these things, depending on how busy your urban center is with these vehicles, you're going to end up with a backlog that just gets longer and longer to the point where it doesn't matter that you have 23 batteries in stock because by the time the last person gets to the front of the line, it'll have already been charged anyway. The other part of that is they tried to kind of wave us away with like, ooh, it's got you can put solar on top and it'll help a little bit with up to 18,000 kilowatt hours per some period. Probably per year. That's the only one that really makes sense with the amount of roof area we're looking at here. Is 18 megawatt hours per year under the best conditions. You won't be able to make this work economically on travel routes unless the travel route is also a major municipality where people can't charge at home for some reason. The other problem with this is the minute you have more than one battery type to deal with, you now have either constrained your future vehicles to use the old battery pack, or now you need to now stock multiple battery packs, either mix-ins or have separate facilities. This is for new cars. This is for old cars. It'll work in some places, but it's not a solution for car charging. It just cannot work. We've run the numbers time and again. We've run them here on this show. We've run it on Tesla Life Show. We ran it on What Drives Us. Battery swaps aren't the only way to make it happen. They are a good band-aid. They are a good addition to whatever else you put out there. So the improvements for 4.0 over 3.0, you're looking at a swap time of 144 seconds from 150 seconds on 3.0, and 2.0, probably the one we looked at last, was 277 seconds. Holds with 23 battery packs. 3.0 held 21 battery packs. 2.0 held 13 batteries. Yeah, 2.0 is definitely the one we looked at last. 1.0 only held 5 batteries. I'm glad I wasn't analyzing that one. I would have just trashed it. Daily output of up to 480 swaps per day, or 1 per 10 minutes on average. So you don't need 23 if it can only do 1 per 10 minutes, because you really only need a little bit over 10 if you can charge it fast enough. 3.0 has up to 408 swaps per day, and 2.0 had up to 312 swaps per day. The automatic operation thing I don't get, because they were saying that 2.0 was definitely automatic. Or yeah, 2.0 was 2.0 and 3.0 were definitely automatic. They were saying 1.0, I do believe that they had somebody underneath moving the stuff for you. Standard features of the ultra wide lidars with the Orion chips with the tops. Introduced in December of 2023, first installed in June of 2024. And then here's the presentation where their CEO tries to sell us on all that stuff, like the solar panels on top. And thankfully, unlike Better Place, NEO is not stopping you from charging your car if you have the facilities to do so. They have released a new 640 kilowatt liquid cooled power charger 4, which has a maximum current of 765 amps and a maximum voltage of 1,000 volts. It's almost mega charging right there. The new charging cable developed by NEO is as light as 5.3 pounds. That's pretty light. The power increase from the previous 500 kilowatts and up to 660 amps was also considered necessary to recharge high capacity packs from 10% to 80% state of charge in about 12 minutes. That's where you need to focus your effort. According to NEO founder and chairman, battery swap stations can break even if they provide just 60 swaps per day. So that part is nice, that you can break even. But 60 swaps per day at 10 minutes a swap, you're looking at 600 minutes divided by 60 minutes. You're looking at 10 hours of swapping per day. So the thing has to be in use all day for you to turn a profit. Or break even, sorry, for you to break even. And let's see. Settings here. Yeah, that's been on. Good. I can see this type of equipment at U.S. dealerships and many tire warehouses across the U.S. Now that mechanical services such as tires, shocks, struts, airbags, suspension, and alignments, but a system like this could become a go-to facility for battery. That would be actually really cool if you could get like a quick tune while they swapped your battery. Just-in-time business model. I don't know. And finally, Inside EVs claims to have inside information on why the GM battery swaps, or the GM battery swaps, the GM supercharging access has not happened yet. This looks really weird down here with the 2B in that font in the circle. The circle is accurate. The rest of the stall looks retouched. And then that 2B, unless they went to the hardware store and got mailbox letters, that's not what Tesla would use there. And on top of that, that dock for the cable looks like a European style. That bright shiny color looks like a V2 color, but it's the handle is too short. Somebody added in this supercharging post either with AI or really bad Photoshop. Yeah, see right here, this on the corner are a couple of CCS chargers, probably EV America. Um, those CCS cables hanging off the right of the bollards there, and on the left inside the hole. I know you can't see my mouse. I'm pointing it out anyway. So that supercharger's not really there. That explains why it looks so bad. Don't call me MrSupercharger.com for nothing. Anyway, they're claiming that it wasn't the software holding them back. They're also claiming that GM didn't know, GM and the others didn't know that they were expected to have their products online in the spring, and that spring was almost done this week, and it is now summertime officially today, and the GMs do not yet have access. It says the GM does have the stock of the adapters, and uh, that they're not too far now. It sounds like just like agreements were not ready yet, and they tried to say that um, that the 500 people lost to the supercharger team had an effect on this, but commenters don't agree on that. The first thing to note is that the deadline wasn't entirely set by GM. It was actually Tesla that put spring of 2024 on its website as the target date for Ford, Rivian, Polestar, Volvo, and GM vehicles. It's also suggesting in the article that because they've had so much extra time to get ready, unlike Rivian and Ford, that GM and the rest shouldn't have the same sort of teething problems when they first turn on the uh, the ability for you to use your adapters and charge your non-Tesla vehicles. And I've said before that these two in the middle cannot charge the way they are in the picture. They need to be turned around because the cables don't reach. Um, anyway, so there's some off the record speaking, and then GM does have a press department that responds to requests, unlike Tesla. And they responded, "We are working as quickly as possible to open up access to the supercharger network for our customers, and delivering a seamless charging experience is our priority. GM continues to expand charging infrastructure throughout North America, with GM drivers currently having access to more than 195,000 chargers. We believe that access to charging is, those are individual stalls, not sites, obviously. Whereas with the Tesla, they are, the 12,000 is 12,000 sites, or 15,000 sites, really. Um, or is it actual stalls too? I don't know. I used to know. We looked at it and then I forgot. Um, we believe that access to charging is the best way to solve our customers and grow, or serve our customers and grow the EV market. Yeah, we'll see. There's just a tiny little update for those of you with a non-Tesla EV that's not yet able to charge on the supercharger network. With that, thank all of you for your time today. Thank our channel members for your time. Last week, we were at the storage locker emptying it out with the last two trips of our cargo trailer as a cargo trailer. So once we finish clearing it out, we will then start removing the interior of the cargo trailer, the wood panels that it comes with, and then we have to install some windows and then get it ready for spray foaming, and then we will get started on the HV Nomad project officially. But there's still some stuff in there that we need to get rid of before we can take the walls out, and then that would be our official start. And remember, we are doing this piece by piece as income allows. So unless somebody sponsors something, it will not be a quick project, but it will be a project and it'll get done. So again, thank our channel members and sponsors. Thank all of you for your time, and we will catch you on the flip side.